The birds are singing in the trees around me as I wonder what the first step in creating this nature journal should be. We have a resident song thrush now, new to the garden, and very welcome he is too. So the obvious thing to do probably is to create the framework for the journal, and this is going to start with the cover. Once I've completed that and decorated it, I'll move on to the title page on the inside, and that'll probably be in the next video. I've decided I'm going to I want to personalise my journal, and you can't really paint on this shiny fake leather surface. So, and also if you do, you're kind of committed. You could go over this with some kind of paint, white paint like latex paint or something, and then decorate that, but you'd be permanently defacing it. So what I thought I would do would be to cover it like this in paper. And we were taught this system in school, and I think it's a really good idea because it's very quick and easy to do, and it's pretty neat on the inside. That's the back and that's the front, and you can either tuck your page in or not in the front as you wish, and it starts here and so on, and you can go through that, and you can change what you put on the front depending on your mood. So I've got some brown wrapping paper here. It's nothing special, and I'm just going to lay my book on top of it. I've got a cutting mat underneath, and I'm going to basically cut a strip big enough to cover the book like that. And then I'll turn that round, and I'm going to trim off the end because this is a bit untidy. And then I'm going to open out the book, make sure I've got enough overlap at each end, and cut this piece here as well. So what you do, you're going to fold that end over. It's a little bit like wrapping a parcel. We're going to fold in the corners, 1 and 2, first of all. Then we're going to go to here, and I'm going to cut like that, and like that, basically taking out a triangle, like that, and like that. And then we will just fold the bottoms up and quickly obtain some sellotape, Scotch tape, and stick that down. There's other neater ways of doing it if you want, but this is perfectly fine for me. Stick that piece down too. And then we'll go to the other side like this. And then we're going to cut here and here, exactly the same. So that's the bit that is the spine, whoops, right here. And then fold that in. And you can do this differently. You could make this much shorter, but I think it's quite good to have it a little bit long, so you've got plenty of overlap, and it's not going to show anyway because it's on the inside. So you take that and fold that up, and then take this, hold it tight there like that, and fold it up so it's not too loose. And then the best thing to do with these tabs really is you can either cut them off or else fold them up like that and sellotape them into place. So then there we are. We have a perfectly covered book, which we can now decorate. And if it goes wrong, or if you don't like what you do, or if you even want to change it according to the seasons, there's no problem. You can just take it off very quickly and put a new one on. So I think that's a good idea, and I'm going to do that. No matter what size your book is, your sketchbook, you can personalise it by making. There are other harder, more complicated ways of making covers, but this is my one of choice. So let's start decorating it. So I've got my nicely covered Viviva sketchbook here, which I'm going to now do some drawings on the front of. And I've decided, I mean, you could do anything. You could make a cover using paper, white paper. And then obviously if you used white cartridge paper or something, it would be easier to do your drawings and everything. They would show up better. And the big advantage, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do in a second, is that you do a design here to make this yours. You know, this is the book I'm going to do my nature journal in. And you can write that on the front as well, nature journal or whatever you want to call it. And then when it's done, and after like about a year of working in it or whatever, the cover's going to be tatty. So you take that off, and then either you can just have the nicely preserved original cover underneath, or else you can put another cover on top to cover it again. So it really works well. And we were taught that at school. 60 years ago, I learned how to do that. And I must admit, I don't think I've used that principle ever since, but now I am. So I'm going to do some drawings on here of flowers, something along these lines. And I'm going to do it using a dip pen. This is one I think I got from Amazon, probably. And if I didn't, you certainly could. Speedball, I think, is the name of the company that make them quite good ones, or you can get a glass dip pen. And I'm going to use, and all the description, in the description below, you'll find all the information about these things that we're going to use. You can get a set of Sennelier drawing ink. I think there are 5 colours or 6 in a set. Colours like walnut, burnt sienna, sepia, sanguine, and bistre. I don't know what that means exactly. It's French. So anyway, and here we have sepia is the one I was using, and I'm thinking I might actually swap from sepia to walnut, because if I remember rightly, walnut is a bit darker. Where is it? Sanguine is reddish. Walnut, there we are. Let's see how that one works. And I've got a little palette dish there, and what I will do is put a little bit of ink in there, but I will also have this open on the desk to dip into. Then I've got a pot of water here, which you can't see there, to rinse the pen, because they do get a bit gunky. It sort of dries out after a bit, and then it doesn't flow very well. But this one has been flowing quite well this morning, so this afternoon even. So what shall we start with? You could start off, I suppose, by writing nature journal. Or, yes, we could start off by doing that. Should I tell you what, I'll do it in pencil first. What do you think of that idea? Because nature. Journal. I'm not going to try and do fancy writing, because this is just it's all about the way we really are. We're not trying to pretend to be something we aren't. So nature. Came across a lovely quote this morning, which I'm not going to be able to remember, by William Wordsworth. Not the daffodils one. Well, it is the daffodils one. I mean, that is to say, it's the daffodils Wordsworth. But he said, "Come forth into the light, I did remember it, let nature be your teacher. And I think that's just about perfect as a starting point for doing a nature journal. What do you think? Come forth into the light. We shouldn't be hiding our light under a bushel anymore. We've been afraid for a long time, but no more. Right, so when that's dry, I can rub out the pencil and we can, it will be tidier then. So let's do some, one of my favourite flowers for drawing is the pansy. It's just such a pretty flower, and when you have kind of a technique like this for drawing them, they're actually quite easy to do. So we'll do a few. So you do the two C's, a backward C and a forward C, and then you draw a little heart underneath, and then you do like this. Okay, and then you can draw some of the veins in using ink if you want. I will colour this in when it's finished. And then we can put a bud over here. I'm doing this kind of from memory, to tell you the truth, because I have painted them quite a lot. Someone said to me the other day, did you draw that from memory? And I'm like, why do you want to know? Did I do something wrong? Is it naughty to do something from memory? I'm sure she didn't mean that. So there we are. We can put another leaf here. Okay, so there's our little pansies. And I'll just rinse off my pen and find some paper and dry it a bit. And pick up some more ink. And then over here, I think I'm going to do something called heartsease, which is similar to pansies. So they have longer petals in the back, and then a pair of shorter ones, and then two sort of down the bottom here. And then take the stem down here. Somebody also said the other day, I can't draw. And I said back to her, everybody can draw if they try. And I honestly think that's true. I don't think that's harsh. I think it's true. You might not yet be able to please yourself with what you draw, but everybody is capable of drawing. If you can sign your name, you can draw. I'm sorry, everybody can, and everyone should. Don't you agree? Flower number 2. I've noticed that people on YouTube are starting to get a lot more opinionated, including me, than they used to be. And I was watching someone, I can't remember if I mentioned this the other day, someone called her channel, her name's Jen, and her channel is called Silver and Solo, I think. And she's knocking on for 60, and so barely what I would call silver. Looking back on it, it seems so young, doesn't it? And she's not even silver, but she calls herself that. Anyway, she's got this channel that has had a massive surge of interest in it because she's talking about how to make the most of getting old. And it's great, really. She's Canadian. And anyway, why am I saying this? Oh, yes, she's very opinionated, she lives alone, obviously. That's why she says she's solo. You should go and take a look at her channel if you're interested. And she's very keen to tell people the best way to manage their life, their money, their house, everything. It's quite good, quite interesting, quite interesting. I'm going to do some sort of bell type things up here. I was practicing earlier, like this. So yeah. What was I saying? Yes. People are getting a lot more kind of outspoken, and I think it's a good thing. And she was saying, seven social norms that I ignore. I don't put out guest towels when I have visitors. They just get to use the regular towels, presumably clean ones. I thought that was so funny. I didn't even know that was a thing. Is that a social norm where you live? Of course, I never have visitors, so it wouldn't have ever occurred to me to put out different towels when people come to the house. I mean, I wouldn't give them the dog towel, for example, to wash their hands and dry their hands on, but special towels for visitors? Excuse me, what? Anyway. I mean, they have a clean one, but not guest towels. The ones that say guest on them, I suppose. That's so funny. She also said, another thing I do that isn't socially acceptable is I put my Christmas decorations up on the 1st of November and in the house. I'm like, why? Why wouldn't that be socially acceptable? Who's going to say anything about that? So anyway, I might do that this year. Actually, last year, I think we did start to put the decorations up in the studio. I did them in November because, of course, we were doing Christmas cards all the way through November, and we will this year too. In fact, it might have even been October. But you have to have your Christmas decorations up if you're going to start painting cards. And what should I put here? What was I doing earlier? I was doing some scribbles. Oh yeah, maybe one of these, a little flowery thing. A little flowery thing is always a good thing, isn't it? If you haven't used a dip pen for drawing, and if you say you don't know how to draw, I suggest you start learning to draw with a dip pen, not with anything else. You might be pleasantly surprised. You can press harder and it comes out thicker, and you can choose the colour you want, and you can choose the nib you want. And somehow it just seems to work. And over here, I was going to put a flutterby. I've got a book here with some butterflies in, so excuse me for just using my reference material. Little body there, and wing, and we'll just put some stripes on the wing like that, and a bit of a decorative edge, and then it needs some veins. And of course, the famous antennae. I think we probably need a bee here. Bees, I always do bees from memory. Ever since someone said to me, Your bees remind me of croissants. I have not had any problems drawing them. I just think about French croissants and Bob's your uncle. Okay, so there we are, that's that. And now let's rinse the pen. Make sure it's not got food up. I can use my eraser here. This is one of those click erasers, which are really good because you don't have to worry about rubbing too much of the paper away, so it can be quite specific. And a shaving brush to get rid of the bits, and then we'll colour it in. So I'm going to be using a couple of small round brushes for this. This is a Craft Mo brush from our set, and this is a Draw Well brush, size 3. I don't often go down that small, but I might need a small brush like that. In fact, I will, because this is a lot smaller, perhaps, than I usually tend to paint. And I'm going to be using 5 colours. You could call that a limited palette, because I know basically which colours I'm going to need for this in order to achieve the look I'm after. And here we've got, from the Michael Harding set, I've got quinacridone gold and quinacridone violet and sap green, which is a very interesting sap green actually, because it looks more like hooker's green really, but anyway, whatever. Mixed with quinacridone gold, that will make a brighter green if we want it. Then I've got lavender here, which is blue, and this colour here, which is called Jaune Brilliant. I don't know why it's in French. That's what's on the label. It's a Japanese paint. It's all Greek to me. No idea why, but what it is it's quite special because it's kind of semi-opaque. It's a bit like Naples yellow, only it doesn't have the strong yellow tint to it. And it has the interesting characteristic of hardly changing the colour that you put on top of it. If you paint it onto the paper, it just makes things look a little bit more like gouache. Not completely like gouache, but a little bit. And because this paper is porous, it's not obviously not watercolour paper. So in this particular situation, I want to try to make the colours stand out just a tiny bit more than they would do if I painted directly onto this paper. And in order to achieve that, I'm going to use this Jaune Brilliant, but it isn't essential at all. In fact, if I hadn't got it, which I only did last week, I wouldn't have known about it and wouldn't be able to do it. So there we are. So it goes on and it looks really white, very light, like this. And I'm doing it into the little harebells or whatever you might want to call these. They're not really bluebells. I sort of kind of made these ones up a little bit, not exactly anything specific. And I think that's one of. I'm a bit of a, what's the word? I studied biology at university. That's what I'm trying to say, and I was for a while a biology teacher. But I'm not keen on. I mean, I think it's wonderful what some people do. Like, is his name John Muir, the guy who is a scientist and an explorer. And he does nature journals, and they're wonderful. They're very informative, full of information. He goes out, finds things, and documents them, and so on and so forth. And that's one way of doing it. But I'm a bit more of a haphazard type of person, and I prefer to make it up as I go along. And if I waited until I went out to find things and then painted them, I'd wait forever, really. And I expect some of you are like that as well, because for whatever reason, wandering around the countryside with a knapsack on your back, you get to a certain point of life and you don't want to do that anymore, even if you can. And I can't. I don't think I've got the energy. I don't think I've got the endurance. I spend my energy on other things these days rather than wasting it wandering around the countryside, going up and down hills. So I wander around my own property. And if I didn't have this garden here, then I would wander around whatever garden I had. Or if I only had an inside garden, I would create one indoors. And that's what I want to say, is that depending on your strength and your abilities, you can always find some kind of nature to enjoy. And it doesn't have to be the Rocky Mountains. It doesn't have to be the desert. It doesn't have to be the North Pole or anything. It can just be your conservatory or the windowsill in your kitchen. One of the best places I ever observed birds, for example, was when we lived in England at one point. We had a kitchen that had a window that faced onto quite a wild garden, and there were always birds outside that window to watch, and that was nice. When you're cooking, you could see all these birds. I don't have that here, even though I live in the middle of nowhere with lots of birds in the garden. Then none of them come to my kitchen because my window faces due south and onto concrete, believe it or not. I should take you around the front of the house sometime and show you the other side, because you only ever see the field and the sheep and everything. But on the other side, yeah, well, maybe we will. Everything has two sides. There's two sides to every coin. Yeah. Somebody said in one of the comments the other day, I'm just yakking on because I'm just boringly going over all of this with Jaune Brilliant, getting towards the end. Somebody said the other day, oh, I think in Europe people are more responsible about the environment and things aren't as bad as they are in America. I can't speak for America, but I can say that what goes into laws and what is supposed to happen and not happen is not what actually happens. There might be laws here to say don't dig up hedges and don't mistreat animals and don't do this, that, and the other, but nobody takes any notice. They just go ahead and do it anyway. So, having a law doesn't necessarily make anything righter. Okay, so that looks quite nice, doesn't it? And you know what? You could leave it like that if you wanted to. I actually think that's a pretty interesting effect. If I hold that up, you can see it a bit better. So all I've done here is just drawn the outline of these flowers with, in this ink, Sennelier Walnut. Comes in different colours, really nice. Using a dip pen, which I've lost. Where's it gone? Here. This one here. You can get these for the cheapest chips on Amazon. You can get one of those for next to nothing, and they last a lot longer than the automatic ones. And this Jaune Brilliant looks really quite nice. And what's the word? Vintage, doesn't it? But anyway, I'm going to spoil that now because I'm going to put colour on top. So I'm still using this very small brush. Could probably use the bigger one, but I think I'm going to stick with my number 3. And let's just put some violet mixed with a little bit of lavender here. So a light bluish, lilac-y mauve. And just vary it a little bit as it goes on. And because we've got this Jaune Brilliant underneath, it shows up. So I tried this out before straight onto the paper and it didn't work very well. So that's those. And let's pick up some green, mix it with a little bit of, see what happens there when you add quinacridone gold to that colour, you get a brilliant green. And we'll come into this here with a couple of different shades of green. There we are. So, and you can, if you use a little bit more of the dark green, you can bring the, the lighter colours into sharper focus. You can do this with as much detail, much colour as you want, or as little, and keep it quite subtle. And if you add that green that you've just mixed to your blue or your mauve, you'll get a much darker colour, which you can then use for the petals that are behind, and as a little bit of shade to give that its form. And don't forget, it'll dry different, so don't worry if it looks a bit dark, because it will come up lighter most likely. So now we'll go down to the pansies down here. And we'll want a little bit of yellow in the middle, so we'll take some quinacridone gold for the centre, like that. Tiny, tiny amounts of paint. And let's put the leaves in next. Pansies are nice because you can grow them very easily, can't you, anywhere. And I think that, well, we usually have a tub of them somewhere around in the summer. Let's put purple ones in the back there and maybe around the edge, and then a little bit here. Yeah, yeah, you can always have a tub of pansies and they go on all the way through the winter. They're amazing. At least ours do, and I'm sure they would do pretty much anywhere in the world. I think they grow anywhere, don't they? Quinacridone gold, and that's this one from Michael Harding is a lovely quinacridone. It's as nice as the one we used to have before they discontinued it, I think. I think he's done a very good job of that. Okay, and I just popped a little bit of black in there because I didn't need much, so I've put it in with the mauve, and I'm going to try to use that to paint my bee, who is sitting up here. Don't want any water. There we are. I'm painting really delicately here. Painted like this for the rest of your life, these paints would last forever. You'd be handing them down to your great-grandchildren. So I'm putting quinacridone gold also on this here butterfly, and I think I might put a little bit of black on the edges of the wings there. And let's do his body similarly like that. And then the last thing is the Heartsease. These flowers here. Need a bit more blue. This lavender is also partly opaque. It's not a completely transparent blue, which is nice. And that's from Holbein. And the information about these paints is, of course, you know where, in the description below. Below what? I said for the first 5 years of using YouTube. What do they mean in the description below? Below what? Eventually I found out that there was a little downward pointing arrow somewhere on the screen, which eventually I clicked on and discovered the information in the description below. So here we go, we're getting close to the end. And the Jaune Brilliant, I think if I had to recommend one addition to anybody's palette that they almost certainly haven't heard of, I found that out from Skillshare, oddly enough. I was watching a video when we were doing our last Skillshare video promotion, and I was watching a video by a lady and she was using it, and I thought, never heard of that before. I reckon I need some of that. And I raised, what's the word? I moved heaven and earth to get hold of some. And thanks to Denise in California, it came from Amazon in the States. So there we are. I think that's that. You could carry on with more details. You could come back in as well with your lines and do more lines, do more layers on these leaves and things, and they will show You know, they might not be very big and everything, but they will all have their little role to play. So there we are. I'm going to leave that like that. I think I might just, actually, having said that, just add a little bit more brighter yellow to the butterfly. And I nearly forgot the yellow on the bee. There we are. Right then. So that's that. And we'll move on to the next thing soon. And I think the next thing is going to be inside. And here's a sneak peek. I'm going to do an introduction page, a sort of frontispiece, and we're going to do something like this: a year of nature in art and poems, or poetry, or verse, or whatever words you want to use. And I'm going to create something a bit like this to show the seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. This is just literally the first thing that came out of my head. So we will take that and work with that in the next one in this series. So I'll let you go now, and I'll see you again soon, and I'll leave you with some shots of outside the studio this morning as we started our day here in France. So bye for now, everybody, and enjoy the animals. See you again soon. Bye-bye for now.